Well, welcome everybody. So nice to see everyone's faces. Somehow it's October. Not quite sure where the time has been going, but it continues to be quite the extraordinary year. So glad to get everybody together virtually again. And we will continue to hold our events through Zoom and virtual means until looking forward into 21 and what plans we're able to solidify then. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us who's been coming to our virtual gatherings, and welcome to any new members on the line. Fantastic to see our membership grow, even when, again, times are a little uncertain. So if you have any questions about membership and everything we do at BVN, please just reach out to us and we can definitely help you share the news to your friends and get everybody in the room here. So just one quick call. Again, if you're interested in helping us plan events or interested in joining one of our committees focused on membership or marketing, please feel free to reach out. We really want to make sure that our programming reflects what our membership wants to see. And of course, that means we'd love more input and more feedback from membership. So yes, just reach out to us individually or by email at bvn@uwdc.org. And so with that, I'm really excited for today's topic, redefining corporate volunteering. Lots of creativity and ways that we're seeing companies kind of think outside the box this year. So hoping to highlight a few different ways that we can still be engaged in the community, even during times of, where we might have to stay at home. So with that, I'm excited to kick this off, and I will pass it over to Jim to get us started.
So just a few reminders with regard to our technology guidance here. Just a few bullet points. Be sure you're muted during the presentation to minimize any background noise. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We definitely want to encourage you to do that. And as we move through toward the end, Steve Whitman will be facilitating that part of our program. We'll be recording this session, so let's get right along. Let's get started with our panel today. Joining us, Rachel Gundacker from United Way of Dane County's 211 Director. We also have Georgia Allen, Corporate and Community Engagement Program Manager with United Way of Dane County, and Katrina Mazinet, Business Analyst for C&W Services and a contractor for CUNA Mutual Group. I just want to say thank you to all for joining us today and allowing us to put this on. So first, let's learn a little bit about the needs in our community right now. I think that's good to kind of frame what's happening with regard to redefining corporate volunteerism. And so Rachel, again, has offered to help us with that. And so Rachel, thank you for joining us. Can you share with us the work of the United Way 211, what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So, hi everybody, I'm Rachel Gundacker. Like Jim said, I'm the director of our local 211 call center. For those of you who don't know what 211 is an information and referral service. So basically what we do is we catalog all of the different community resources. So things like food pantries, agencies that are providing services like rent assistance or utility assistance. So we have a really big database full of all of these resources. And then we have a 24-hour call center where people can call 211, talk to one of our call specialists, and get access to those resources. So sort of the United Way connection here is like all of the great agencies and the great work that United Way funds. We're sort of the entry point for folks in the community to access those great programs. And, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to mention that, so we are available, like I said, 24/7. We have a translation service that can translate into almost every language. We haven't yet found a language we can't translate into. 211 is actually a statewide and then larger national program. So about 95% of folks in the United States are covered by a 211 center, and 100% of people in our state are covered by a 211. Then go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what are the needs and concerns that you're hearing about, Rachel? I know we were talking at Madison Gas and Electric Company the other day about what are the high priority areas right now. What are you seeing?
Sure. So since the pandemic started, sort of the beginning of that, we were asked by DHS and public health to sort of be the central place that people can call for information related to COVID-19. And that kind of covers like two areas, I would say. It's like that, still maintaining that sort of general, assisting folks in the community who are needing, community resources. And then in addition to that, really fielding calls about people looking for answers related to, are the symptoms I'm experiencing potentially COVID? Where do I go to get a test? Just like kind of a gamut of those types of questions. So at the same time that we were seeing really high increases in needs of our just like regular type calls, rent, food, utilities, we were also seeing this increase in calls for people freaking out a little bit about coronavirus, of course, like we all were. So it was a twofold of us really putting our heads together and working hard to be entering all of the different sort of new resources. So for example, like the stimulus checks that were happening, trying to understand how we can really, loop callers in on how to access those funds, as well as like the Dane County CARES program and the statewide WRAP program. So getting all of those new programs entered in so we could be helping people access those programs. And at the same time, helping kind of like field questions that would normally go to public health or DHS. So we saw pretty big increases in food. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, there were so many changes to how agencies were providing services, right? Like a normal walk-in food pantry suddenly was curbside, and they changed their hours. And somebody who has been using that pantry for the past 4 years was suddenly calling us being like, oh my gosh, where do I go to get food? Everything's different. So we saw a really big spike in those calls. And then as that sort of leveled out and people got more comfortable with the new processes, we saw a really high increase in needs of housing. So people not being able to pay their rent, not being able to pay their utility bills, and wondering like, what do I do? And a lot of those folks that were calling anecdotally were people who had never really been in that situation before, but had been laid off or furloughed or, had to quarantine for 2 weeks and weren't getting paid.
So how do these 211 calls go? I think you were going to share that with us today. Is that right?
Yeah. So if it's okay, we can play a quick call just so you can get a good idea of what somebody calling 211 would experience. And I think.
Thanks for calling United Way's 211. This is Mona. How can I help you?
Hi, I need to file an appeal for unemployment.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't get accepted or anything, but I don't know how this works. So I've never done this before, but I'm basically like freaking out because I can't afford to feed my kids right now. So, yeah.
Okay, sure. So what I can do is sign you up for the Unemployment Appeals Clinic. It looks like there is one opening left this coming Monday. Would you like to take that?
Yeah. Is it over the phone?
It is over the phone. Sometimes
Okay.
It's been in person in the past, but it's over the phone.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Okay, so looks like they're going to call you Monday at 6 p.m. Make sure you have everything related to your case on hand, and then they'll help you prepare for your appeal hearing.
Okay.
Okay, so they'll explain the process, what that looks like, and in some instances, they'll attend that hearing with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are you okay on everything else? You mentioned having a hard time with food. Would you like some information on food share or food pantries?
Well, I have food stamps and, I'm on Badger Care, but I could use some help with like other food. Also, my electricity is about to get shut off, so that's insane. It's like everything is just happening all at once. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry.
Well,
Sorry, I'm so upset. It's just really difficult.
it's okay. It's okay. So, well, I'd say there's a place called Energy Services that can oftentimes help with utility bills. Have you ever connected with them?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right. So give them a call for sure. Their number is 608-333-0333.
Okay.
Okay, and there's another place. It's called the DIGS program, and they can help with utilities. They take calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 until 9 a.m. And their number is 608-252-8522. So just a half hour in the morning. There are also some specific resources for folks having a hard time due to COVID-19. So if you have access to texting, I can text you those resources, and some of those are web-based. Do you also maybe need help with rent?
Yeah, well, yeah, the texting thing would be great, and I think I'm okay on rent for now.
Okay. All right. Well, as for food, have you ever used the River Food Pantry? It looks like they're in your area.
Yeah, I used to volunteer there.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, they've actually changed their hours probably since you've been there. So they're now open Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m.
Okay.
All right, and it's drive up, so you won't have to even go in the building.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, so we're also available 24/7. So if you needed other food pantry options, or if you do find you need help on your rent or really just anything else, call us back and we're happy to tell you what's available.
Okay, that's so nice. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for calling United.
Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. I've always wondered how those calls go. I know it must take a lot of cool, calm, and just access to a lot of resources that you know of and your staff for doing that. It's an amazing service that United Way provides, and thank you for coordinating that. What are some of the changes that you've seen in trends in the last year with 211? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so in this, this is our sort of year-to-date volume record here. So just in terms of volume, we've seen obviously a pretty big increase in the just total number of calls we're handling. So since March, I mean, March was one of our highest volume months, but then it kind of tapered off, and we were thinking, okay, maybe we're doing okay here. And then actually July, you can see, is our actual highest volume. And then August decreased a little bit, and then September was still over 4,000 calls. So in some months it's about doubled. In March, because the pandemic, we started to see the increase in calls really the second half, almost second third of the month. We were seeing like 2.5 to 3 times, 4 times, if you were looking at just a snapshot of a day, the volume that we would normally expect at that time. And so now it's like not quite doubled, but still, depending on the day, the volume can be really, really high. Like I had mentioned in the types of calls, the differences. So March and April, we saw about 2.5 times our food pantry referral increase than what we would have expected to see something in like 2019, 2018. So June to date, from June until today, our highest increase is in like the housing and the utility resources. And then of course, we've been giving a lot of referrals for things we hadn't been in 2019, like COVID-19 testing sites and like CDC information. So that's all sort of new, but if we were comparing, apples to apples, 2020 to 2019, really our spikes have been in food, housing, and utilities.
Thank you.
And then in recent months, really, we've seen an increase in the number of shelter referrals and just what we would call general stabilization referrals. So agencies like Joining Forces for Families, who kind of holistically look at, a family and the needs that they have. So in addition to perhaps some of the, pretty specific housing resources, trying to link people up to those other community supports is really important.
Okay. I guess I was just going to ask them, are you planning, what planning are you doing, kind of looking into the future? Anything strategic or anything you wanted to share with us regarding that, with regard to your staff and the resources that you have?
Yeah, so this past month, what we've been focusing in on is some mental health resources and mental health partnerships. So we've been partnering with a couple of different groups statewide to make sure that if we have a caller who's calling in who is also experiencing some or has some mental health needs and would like to talk to somebody a little bit more about that, that we have a place that we can really warm transfer them to get that additional support they might need. So that's something sort of new that we've launched recently, is that ability to connect somebody live to a mental health specialist. Other programs that we've been looking into or have been working hard on are, the childcare and back to school programs, of course, and coming into winter, so winter preparedness, so the winter clothing programs, holiday baskets. We're still on the fence here on what Christmas programs are going to look like, if there are going to be any toy programs this year, but those are all things that we're, trying to figure out right now, as well as helping with promotion of things like the flu vaccine, and then also in addition to that, preparation for if there is a COVID-19 vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine in the future, like what our role will be in helping people access those things. So all things on the horizon that feel kind of far away, but I mean, we're thinking about Christmas in July, I say, so we're a little bit late on the game on that one.
Well, thank you for sharing all this great information. I appreciate all the work that you do, and you're really a huge asset to our community and to the United Way, and appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll move on. I'd like to introduce Georgia Allen again from the United Way. She's going to talk a little bit about ways that BVN members and member companies can help out. And so Georgia, I'll let you take it away from here.
Thank you, Jim. So as Jim shared, my name is Georgia Allen, and I'm with United Way of Dane County's Corporate and Community Engagement Department. And my focus is to support our corporate partners or business partners in advancing and or starting employee volunteer programs by connecting them to volunteer opportunities that promote a Dane County where all can succeed in school, work, and life. As Rachel has shared, COVID-19 has caused our community to restructure the operations of business, government, and nonprofits. For our nonprofit partner agencies or organizations that provide resources to our community, not only did the demand for their services increase, but even more so the need for volunteers. For them, longtime and regular volunteers were unable to help because they fit the high risk categories, so they had less volunteer staff available. As shared by Rachel, some of the evolved methods that they use to get resources to those in need within like public health guidelines, there was an increase for volunteers needed for pantry deliveries, unloading and loading materials, and various other ways to keep the resources available during the pandemic. And not only did that provoke new ways of engagement, but for us, our role for corporate volunteerism is to support companies in determining how to engage employees and adjust to the public health restrictions, and continuing to safely mobilize communities to volunteer and continue to support our nonprofit partners. As a part of this, we are working to expand and evolve our volunteer engagement opportunities. For example, screen back, please. Slide back. For example, our pre-COVID on-site engagements, which is a very familiar engagement activity, have been adjusted to accommodate small groups following the public health guidelines. And Katrina with C&W Services will be able to share their experience hosting on-site engagements at their campus. And we have a new way to engage employees given our current circumstances, at-home engagements. You'll find a link in the chat This accommodates companies with majority of employees working remotely. And to give you an example of an at-home snack pack engagement, employee volunteers will receive a kit of supplies as shown on the slide here to make snack packs at home. Sorry. This kit will have all those supplies to make a certain number of kits. They'll also receive educational information handouts, or we'll do a PowerPoint remotely or virtually. And their family can also join them, like their kids can help and other members of their household. They return the finished products to United Way or distribute directly to the agency. So it's a great new way to engage employees, given the majority of employees working remotely for most businesses. Our next engagement would be virtual engagements. And this is where we can provide a custom list of volunteer time opportunities to share with your employees. And as you can see, some of the examples would be COVID-19 helpline to volunteer with 211, tutoring for East High School students, and volunteering for Red Cross, American Red Cross as a screener. And those are continuously updated on our Volunteer Your Time website and can be custom to businesses to share with their employees. Our final remote or virtual engagement would be a virtual supply drive, where we can match your company with an agency in a specific need, as well as provide education about the urgent needs of that agency and the community they serve. And there are, if you want to know more about those virtual drives, we do have a new corporate engagement menu that includes a few general ideas of how that will work. So if you're interested, we would love to have a conversation. I will say that we are continuously evolving those menu options. So if you have any suggestions, please reach out, or if you're interested in hosting one, it'll be great to hear from you. There should be a link in the chat as well to engage in that opportunity. And I think that's all I have for virtual.
Georgia, can you tell us, are these engagements available to just BVN members or across the entire business and corporate spectrum?
Yeah, they're available to the entire the corporate spectrum, all businesses.
Okay, great. And please, for those that are participating today, again, I think Steve also already mentioned this, but use the chat for questions and we'll move on. So thank you very much, Georgia, for all the work that you're doing to identify, and I know it's a lot of logistics behind this. It's amazing stuff. We did it last year corporately at MG&E, face-to-face. The virtual world and virtual opportunities are a whole new experience. So let's move on, and now let's hear from one of our BVN members about their recent experiences with corporate volunteering in this new world. Katrina Mazinet, tell us about the volunteer projects that C&W Services has done.
All right, thank you, Jim. My name, again, is Katrina Mazinet, and I work for C&W Services on the CUNA Mutual account, where my role is to just support day-to-day operations. I also lead the volunteer committee, just in serving the community and in order to meet our company's giving and volunteer initiatives. So that's a pretty fun part of my job. So thank you for having me. We love working with United Way and Georgia, and we just appreciate what you guys are doing. So we have had the opportunity to work with United Way since the pandemic started. Again, like most people, we took a break from our volunteering just as we were navigating the stay-at-home order and all of that. Due to the nature of our business, some of our employees were they were working during even that time, and some of them are at home, but for the most part, we are on site, most of our employees. So we were able to partner with United Way and do a couple activities. The first one we did was to assemble the feminine hygiene packs. So our team did, I think, 250 feminine hygiene packs for people that, might not be able to afford really the necessities that they need, not the most exciting things, but their necessities. The same thing with the paper towel, the paper packs, which are paper towel and toilet paper, things that someone might not think of, as being super exciting, but it's a very basic need that everyone has. So we did, I believe, 500 of those. And basically, we have, protocols that we follow, and we've been able to safely do these events on site with social distancing, disinfecting, wearing masks, things like that, just taking the protocols that our company, CNW, as well as CUNA's company. So we kind of have a little, we're doubly looking at two different companies are keeping us in line, so which is great. So we've been able to safely do that and adhere to those. And also, everything that we do is 100% volunteer. So no one's required to volunteer if someone doesn't feel comfortable. Even in that environment, we don't ask for them to come and do that. So we just have been able to do those and some other things too, but those ones we've done through United Way and have really, really enjoyed being able to do that.
So can you give us a flavor of kind of how employees have responded to the options that you have coordinated for them? What's kind of been their response and their feedback on these new opportunities that you're doing in this world now?
I think that's a really, really good question, Jim, because life has changed a lot for people, and there's a lot of different pressures. I know we're talking about kids. Some people have other things that they have to deal with. They might not have anybody. They might live alone and be lonely. There's just different things that people are struggling with, whatever it may be. So it's been challenging just to even get back to work and figure everything out. So adding in kind of asking people to volunteer, we took an approach where we just tried to make it as easy as possible for people. So the engagements that we do are on site during the regular work week, so that people, they're short, very short, so that people don't have to come and spend their own time. Some of the things we ask people to do, people who are at home, they do that during their work hours at home. And I know Georgia was talking about doing some stuff from home. So that type of thing, we've seen a really good, pretty much, other than we have a smaller staff on site now because people's hours have changed and some people are at home. So other than that, we haven't really had, virtually no reduction in people volunteering, just smaller amounts of people there. So, and I think another reason for that too is we have a really amazing group of leaders, managers there. So our managers pretty much always are part of the volunteering, whether it be at home or on site. Even our director participates in everything. And so I think that really boosts the morale and helps people to want to be a part of it. So,
Have you seen new employees participate, or is it primarily the group that has been involved in the past? I can imagine that represents a lot of challenges given recruiting new people to actively be involved, but maybe you're seeing a lot more in interest now with the needs the way they are and the greater need in the community.
Yeah, definitely. We have seen our new employees seem to be on board, and they've joined in and participated in those events so that we've put out there. So it's really fun to see. I think it's just the attitude. Like I said, it kind of comes from the top down and then outward. So they see their teammates responding in a certain way, and it's a really big deal for our company, this part of what we do. And so yeah, I think the new employees have responded well to
So I'm
wanting to
looking
be a
at,
part of.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the slides. I'm looking at the photos here, and I see people wearing PPE. And it looks like they're working on site. Is that in a business place? Or is that, where are these locations at that we're seeing on the slides?
Yep, so we are at our location on site in Madison. We've had to, we have a certain amount of people that are allowed in certain areas. So we've had to change up, what we've done to be able to fit and accommodate what we are doing now. So things look a little bit different. We can't fit as many people in a room as we used to. But this is on site, and there's no one allowed in or out of our building other than employees, and that's really strict. So just because of COVID. So yeah, it's been a little bit different, but.
How big are the teams that you engage at? You said there are short periods of time where they do engage. How many at a time would you say are involved in a room like this that we're seeing here on the slides?
I believe our last event, somewhere around maybe like 12 to 14 people were involved in that, the one that you're looking at in the picture there. So another thing that we're potentially going to be doing is switching people out if we do get our team all back on site and people want to participate. We would look at doing maybe shifts, but this was the right amount of people. So
how do you, one question here, how do you promote these opportunities to employees? Is it through various platforms that you engage, electronic newsletters, intranets, that so forth and so forth?
Pretty much we have a team of the volunteer committee basically, and so everyone's really involved, even the employees, that various areas. We have people that suggest what they want to do for a certain month. So someone might have, actually one of our employees, I believe, chose this event a while back, maybe before COVID, who wanted to do this specific event. So we have certain teams that reach out to their teams to let them know. And then we also do just an invite for everyone to be there. So we'll do like a Teams invite, for instance, where Georgia and her team might do a presentation like this. And so everyone gets an invite, but they're made aware of it by the leader in our volunteer committee for their particular team. So
great. Thank you. I'd like to ask you then, and our members too that are participating today can think about their own organizations. And I know there's probably a great deal of apprehension on the part of some businesses to engage employees in face-to-face volunteer projects and that type of thing. But do you have any advice for those companies and their senior management or leadership that are thinking about this? And like I said, the apprehension about it, when to engage, when not to. I mean, we're in a very difficult time right now. And so do you have any advice that you could share with us today that we could use perhaps in thinking about how to approach this?
Well, Jim, as you can see from this meeting, and I think we all know, the need for assistance is greater than ever. So there's a lot of opportunities that used to be there to volunteer that are just not available anymore. So like Rachel was saying, all these different needs that people, one lady in the video example used to volunteer at the food bank, and now she's going to get food there. So it's definitely getting, definitely getting more needful. So my advice would be to find a way of corporate volunteering that works for your company, your employees, and your situation. Like Georgia said, there's different resources that are out there, different ways of volunteering. We've had to look and kind of be creative and group our ideas together just to find ways to volunteer. Sometimes there's financial restrictions of what companies can and can't do for their giving or their volunteering. And so you just have to be a little bit creative, find ways, and reach out to people like United Way and find out what's available. And people can volunteer from home. We've done a couple different things where people are doing things at home, assembling kits. So I think it kind of feels, a little bit dark at times to be going through this pandemic and, the news and everything. So I think it's really encouraging to your employees and to yourself to just give and, help others. It's just something that really lifts people up. And even after doing these events, you can just see everyone has a really kind of a good spirit. It's very uplifting during what we're going through.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing with us today and for the work that you guys are doing. And hats off to you and everyone that's engaged, not just CNW services. I know that, like you said, the needs are great. And I would think too, the opportunities just to gather, if you have an opportunity to see one another face to face, that for those of us that are working at home, it can be pretty lonely out there. So just to engage beyond the screen from day to day and the work that we do, extremely valuable. And I know there are others of us out here on the webinar today that have experience with this as well. And we encourage you to share your opportunities and experiences as we move ahead. And so at this point of the program, I guess I'd like to turn it over to Steve for question and answers. So please, if you haven't posted anything on that, now is the time to do that. So Steve, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Jim. As you say, just a reminder to everyone, if they have a question for any of the panelists, go ahead and put that in the chat. And we don't have any questions in there right now, but that's okay because I've been jotting down lots of them as each of the panelists have been speaking. I want to thank each of them for giving such an informative and insightful view as to their world and what's going on. And with that, I might ask Rachel a question or two. And one of the things that crossed my mind as you were speaking, Rachel, and covering all the different things that your operators, phone operators have to know about is that, first off, how has your staffing needs changed in the past couple of months? And number two is how does your staff get up to speed to know what those services are that are available to the callers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. So our staffing needs have increased because of the volume increases. What we're doing right now is we have actually our 211 Center manages the group of statewide volunteers that helps us answer the COVID-19 specific questions. So it's a quicker turnaround for training. We can really get people up to speed pretty quickly on the type of resources that they need to know to answer questions for folks calling in on that line. And so that's been super helpful, and it's nice because it's remote, so we're not kind of confined to people who live within this specific area to be able to come into the office and take calls, and people can do it from their own home as long as they have an internet connection and a phone. So that's been super helpful because then that frees up our staff to really focus in on calls that are a little more complex, the gamut of needs. And we use Teams a lot for information sharing, but really everything gets updated in the system. So we've got a team of 3 folks who are, managing the resources in the system and updating them in real time. And so as soon as they find out an update, they put it in the system, send out an alert to the team, like, okay, there's been a change in this resource. Make sure you read it carefully next time you're in it. And so that's how we handle the ever-changing kind of climate of resources.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. One of the other things I was thinking about, I guess, was that certainly I hope everybody on the phone and attendance today has known about 211 and your mission and the services that you connect people to and offer. But how does the word get out to the people who might be in need? As I think one of the things you may have mentioned in one of your answers was that some of the people who are calling in are people who have not been in a situation where they needed services like this before.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're not even aware that there is such a thing as 211. How does that get communicated out to the community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do some marketing campaigns, and I know work closely with Adrian and that team to get the word out via like social media and TV and radio. We get a lot of referrals in from our partner agencies. So if someone's calling, you know, the road home and they have a food need, the road home would most likely refer them back to 211. We get a lot of referrals from our partners, like utility providers, MG&E, Alliant, people calling in needing help with their bills. A lot of times they'll send them to 211 for perhaps additional resources. And then word of mouth. So, I mean, we do get a lot of people who say a friend or family member told them to call.
Right, right. So I would also have to think that being, that a lot of people are in this situation for the first time is that there is probably some hesitancy to reach out.
Mm.
Maybe it's pride, or maybe it's being embarrassed that they're in this situation through perhaps no fault of their own, likely no fault of their own.
Mm-hmm.
How does your staff deal with that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we train on and really are, I guess, sticklers on when we're doing our customer service reviews and is empathy. And so I say it's like the one thing you can't teach somebody. It's what we look for when we're recruiting volunteers and when we're hiring staff, is like, can the person who's on this side of the phone, on the 211 side of the phone, you know, provide that empathetic listening to somebody who's calling in who maybe has never called in before, or is embarrassed. And so, I mean, that's one thing that we do, is we don't have like a set time for a call. Like, we don't have like you have to handle this call in 5 minutes. Like, you have to handle this call so that the caller feels heard and helped. And so, I mean, it could take 2 minutes, it could take 20 minutes, it could take 2 hours. I mean, that's an outlier, but we have had 2-hour calls. So, I mean, I would just say, like, we're here to listen and we're here to be non-judgmental and to say, you know, people are in these situations who've never been in the situation before. And even if you have been in the situation before, it doesn't really matter to us. We're here to help you. So, and people, you know, it's anonymous. We're not collecting people's information or their names. We're really collecting zip code and sometimes age, but people refuse that, and that's totally fine. So they can feel like they have some anonymity with, you know, the call and the experience.
Awesome, awesome. I was reading an article about homelessness in New York City, and the person they were profiling had become homeless, and she went for services in the New York City area. And so that battery of questions went something like, well, are you a victim of domestic abuse? Well, no. Do you have an addiction issue? Well, no. What about mental health? No, because there are homeless services for people in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you know, it's just a series of circumstances and I need a place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's not so much a place for somebody who doesn't fit into one of those like predetermined categories of people who sometimes find themselves in a homeless situation. So do you find that there are some really pockets of our community that are not being served by the services that are out there?
Yeah, I will say, so what we collect and what we ask, I suppose, are two different things. So if there's a service that requires perhaps that somebody has a minor child, or that they, you know, are homeless or have a, you know, underlying health issue, those questions, we would certainly ask that to make sure we're not giving somebody a resource that they're not going to be eligible for, because we don't want to waste anyone's time. So, I mean, that said, like housing resources right now, because the CARES program and the RAP program are out of funding, like if you don't have an eviction notice, if you don't have a minor child, there's really like just very few places for you to try. And there are some, and we're happy to give them to people, but you know, it's limited and it's unfortunate. But, you know, we're hopeful that things will be changing. I know the governor announced that he was putting some more funding into the RAP program, the Wisconsin Rental Assistance Program. So, you know, we're hopeful that things will be changing. And that, you know, we're hopeful that things will be changing. I know the governor announced that he was putting some more funding into the RAP program, so, you know, we're hopeful that things will be changing. And that, you know, we're hopeful that things will be changing. I know the governor announced that he was putting some more funding into the RAP program, so, fingers crossed that goes through. But yeah, I won't say that there's a resource for everyone because there isn't, and how to handle those calls is really hard.
I can't imagine, quite frankly, but yes, thank you for sharing that, and not the message there is not lost on me, and I hope not the other people on the call as well. So we have a question from Lindsay. Is the 911 service available to individuals outside of Dane County?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work together with 7 different call centers across the state to cover the entire state of Wisconsin. And then the larger 211 network actually serves about 95% of US residents. So most people are served by a 211. And I think, so that's a great question. And the reason why that's a really cool kind of partnership that we have is, so we're able to sort of, as a 211 Wisconsin system, mobilize to do these statewide projects like the COVID response. We also run the Wisconsin Addiction Recovery Helpline. We're doing a lot of work with mental health, and those are all statewide programs. So it's like a very kind of standardized program. Anybody in the state could, call in, and we would help them no matter where they're from. And then it's really nice too to be able to, get a caller who's maybe calling in and looking for resources for a parent who lives in Florida, and then for us to be able to say, okay, just hang on one sec, let me transfer you to that 211 center. So the network is wide, and generally we are able to get somebody to the place that they need to go, no matter where they are.
That's awesome. Very good. Thank you so much. I think that I'll let you off the hook for a minute or two and put Georgia in the spotlight. So thank you, Georgia, for your presentation today and reviewing the different virtual events and things that have been put together to serve the needs of the community. One of the things I was thinking about when you were talking is that some of these things are kind of newer to the community, and some of the things are activities that have been done before, but now are being done virtually or at home. And is there one or two that seem to be kind of favorites among the corporate community as far as seem to resonate better with them than others?
Thank you for asking. So the at-home kits have been a hit. They are accessible to, they're able to engage a bigger audience of employees when it comes to companies that have a majority of remotely stationed employees. The on-site engagement is still an option for those that are still on campus. So I would say the combination between those two are a hit. And the virtual school drive, we did have a virtual supply drive for the school, for school supplies, and that was it was actually a community and corporate collaboration, and that went very well. But for the corporate audience, I would say the at-home kits are a great engagement.
Could you, so maybe there's some people on the call who have participated in an at-home kit project before, but could you kind of just walk us through the highlights, the steps that someone would go through if they were interested in pursuing an at-home kit project with their co-workers or with their organization?
Sure. I would say the first step would be to visit our corporate engagement menu, or visit our website, and there's a link here. I can have reshared this again, but visit our corporate engagement menu on our website, unitedwayofdanecounty.org, and review the options, see what would work for your team and group, and then send an email that would be going to me and my team, and we would be able to discuss specifics of budget, size for your team. So those would be the first steps, I would say. And I would also just confirm with like HR or any protocols within your business on if this is the right engagement for your company.
So once those things are kind of settled, then how do the kits actually get put together at someone's home or at home?
Yeah, so myself and team members will assemble the kits for each employee. So for example, we've had Cummins and AmFam recently participate in this activity, and we put together 40, they have 40 employees that are engaging in this activity. We put together 40 kits, which are boxes with all the items and materials needed to build a snack kit, or specifically a snack kit. And we would either deliver that to your campus where the company can have their employees pick them up, or they can pick them up from United Way. Once they have completed they've done the finished product, they can either deliver them directly to the distributing agency, which we would coordinate on the back end, delivery times and information of the best way to get those deliveries to that agency. Or they can deliver to United Way, or we can pick up from the corporate campus and take those to the partner agency or distributing agency. Also, we can also do a presentation depending on, we've had a group want to do a virtual kickoff where we were able to assemble the kits together, go through the instructions, do the PowerPoint, or you can just do them independently at your own, your employees can do them independently at their own, on their own time. And that would be high level process.
Yeah, no, the virtual kickoff sounds interesting to me, because that would be, since people are not as familiar with maybe doing at-home projects like this, that doing something like that would really help solidify in their minds, like, what is it that I'm going to do and how am I going to do it? So that's great.
I would also add, I've gotten feedback that it was really cool for employees to engage with the virtual kickoff, as they're assembling those kits, they were able to interact with each other, given that they are all remotely in remote settings.
Oh yeah. When we've done some of those projects before in person, it's always like, hey, does anybody have any stickers left? And that kind of thing. Or I ran out of stickers, or I put 2 stickers on this one. What do I do now? All those silly but kind of fun things that bring the group together. Katrina, one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking about the positive reaction that your workforce has had to participating in these volunteer events, do you think that because your organization is probably more on the forefront, especially from the employees' workforce standpoint, of how to deal with staying safe in the work environment? I mean, I envision that anyway, based on kind of the mission of your organization, where some of us are like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do when I go into work. Am I really supposed to, wipe things down? Do I have to, do I have to wear a mask? But I'm imagining your folks are even more aware of those things, because that's part of what they're doing. So do you think that played a role in how easy this transition, I should say easy, but how, the good response you've gotten to the opportunities that have been out there?
Sure, Steve. Yeah, I think that our team definitely does. I mean, for the people that are volunteering, do pretty much feel safe, or I don't think that they would participate. Again, we did take probably over 3 months where we, no one did convene together to do anything. And so I think if it would have happened earlier, it might have been a different story. But yes, like you said, I mean, we do the janitorial, we do other things too there, but we definitely have kind of a graph on how clean our building is, what's going on there. And our company, as well as CUNA, has very high standards as far as COVID goes, and so I do think that plays a role. But again, I do think there's people on our team that they're working from home, might not have felt comfortable to come in if they were there. So it's just kind of, and that's why we offer them different opportunities. So But yes, it just varies from person to person. But like I said, these people are there working on the building and keeping it clean, and or if they're not in that department, they're seeing what's going on. So that might play a role in our volunteer turnout.
Yeah, yeah. When I looked at the website, your company's website, and really got a better idea of how involved you are in the various aspects of facility management and care, that was something that kind of crossed my mind. One thing that you mentioned, I think, was that you have a volunteer committee. And so do you have a criteria for people to be on the committee, or do you take anyone? And if so, can people from outside the organization join?
We take anyone. No, it's pretty much just our employees. It's like our little committee of, bringing our team together, getting people excited and on board. And really, I think it makes such a big difference to have anybody in our group there at that location that wants to be in it. We love to have input, and we love people to be part of it. And yeah, I wish you guys could come in too. But no, yeah, it's just for our team there.
Right, right. Well, sometimes we find too that it's nice to have a representative from various aspects of the business involved, so you can get everyone's perspective and input. And I didn't know if maybe you kind of even recruited around that for the committee.
Well, I think they recruited before I was there, so that one I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they did go out and actually recruit people to come in, but I would imagine that's probably a possibility.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you to each of the panelists today for joining us. We just have a few minutes left in the webinar today. It's about 1:57. If we didn't get to your question and you think of one that you would like to pose, just go ahead and let us know about it. And I'm sure we could follow up with the panelists and let them know about the question and get the answer back to you. So with just a few minutes left, I wanted to give our BVN president, Jill, a chance to wrap up things up and talk about what's happening next with BVN.
Well, thanks everybody. So we've got a list of upcoming events. There are some engagements, of course, as we've discussed, up to your comfortability level and what you're doing at your own workplace. So please join us for our next webinar on the 8th. You can pop that on your calendar, and of course we'll be sending out more. Thank you to Hannah for sharing that link. And again, we're here to support you in any way and would love to continue to build this community. So please tell all your friends, and again, reach out if you've got any feedback on today's event or what you'd like to see in the future. And so with that, I think we can wrap up, give everyone a couple minutes back. And thank you to everyone joining us today. Thanks so much, Steve, Jim, the entire Executive Education and Engagement Committee. There are a lot of moving parts in the back end here, so we really appreciate everyone who helps us to plan these events. And hopefully we'll see you on our LinkedIn community and online, and again, at our next in-person or virtual event.